Every once in a while, you will walk into a building and something just feels off. You can't really explain it. Nothing has happened when you walk in. Yet the moment that you step inside that door, every instinct tells you that something isn't right. The vibes are just off, literally. I know I've definitely had this happen to me before. You just kind of you can't explain it. But like I said, it just feels off. But tonight's stories, we are going to explore a lot of different situations like that. I think most of them are going to be paranormal. So let's get cozy, let's get spooky, and let's dive in. This is Static Hour, a late-night broadcast of strange and unsettling stories from the darkest corners of the internet. I'm Bree, and we are officially on the air. The first story is from user Majestic Arachnid 82. It is from the subreddit Ghost, and it's called Son Came to Me About Seeing Ghosts. As the title suggests, my 12-year-old son asked me if we could talk. We sat down and he proceeded to tell me that he's been hearing me and his late grandma call out to him in the house, often when he's using the bathroom and almost always when I'm at work. He said the last time it happened, so the mom, was calling him and knocking on the bathroom door. He knew I was at work, so he just stood there completely still and terrified until about 5 minutes after it stopped. Whenever I'm around spirits or entities, the hair on the back of my neck pricks up and my eyes start to water. Sometimes a sense of dread overwhelms me in the moment. My son also experiences these same symptoms. Then he mentioned something that invoked a fear I haven't felt since I was a teenager. Ugh, I hate this. I don't like it when kids are coming to you with creepy things because as a parent, you have to be the one to be okay and okay, I'm in charge of this situation. So you can't let in that you are also scared. He said that he hasn't been sleeping in his room. And then in parentheses, she says he sleeps in my room on the couch because he has seen a tall, dark figure with a top hat. Isn't he just called the tall man in the hat or something? This is a thing. It's a very common thing. I had to stop him right there to tell him I knew exactly what he was referring to. I have been battling this low vibrational entity since I was 15 years old. It tormented me during my teen years, and now it appears to be tormenting my child. I'm at a loss for what to do. I've smudged and blessed my home, and it works for a bit, but it always seems to return. I feel like despite not seeing it in its physical form for decades, this entity has been attached to me, nonetheless, presenting itself through NMs. And they said, can't say the actual word for some reason. What's NMs? I'm not sure what that would be. Nightmares? Maybe? I don't know. Bad luck and depression. This thing told me my stepmom was going to die in a very malicious, evil manner a few weeks before she was found murdered outside her home. Whoa, did not see that coming. So I know it doesn't have good intentions, and I'm very worried for my son. I just wanted to share what we've been experiencing, and I'm wondering if anyone else has dealt with this sort of thing before and how it was managed. Oh, the thing about the stepmom really freaked me out. Okay, so diving into the comments, someone said you can, have a priest bless the house, but it sounds like she already did that. And then they said, I wanted to add that the supernatural cause for hearing conversations when no one is home is usually demonic, so is mimicking. That's a terrifying reality. They thrive and become empowered when they cause fear. It's important not to engage. Tell your son to act like they don't hear anything. And that's kind of what he's been doing. So someone talked about schizophrenia, but the Hat Man is literally very common. It's a very common thing. And of course, this is Reddit. So you're going to get the Reddit therapist coming in immediately. And again, of course, like, yes, you want to make sure that it's not some supernatural thing going on. But at the same time, like, if this is something that she already has in her life and like she's already saw the same type of thing, I feel like you can't just immediately go to like, it's a therapy thing or anything like that. I don't know. That's just my thought. Another commenter said kids tend to mimic attention-seeking behavior, usually from parents and siblings. And then the OP was like, maybe, but I haven't talked about my own experiences with him or what I believe to be paranormal, mostly because I feel that talking about these things may escalate the issue. Plus, at their age, I find it inappropriate to scare them in such a way. And she said, my daughter hasn't mentioned hearing anything at all. So regardless, I've been reaching out to therapy to see if it's a sign of some kind of chemical imbalance. I don't know. I feel like the comments are kind of harsh. It's interesting. And it's weird that we're on a ghost subreddit and no one is bringing up the Hat Man. That's what I was trying. Okay. Someone said the Hat Man strikes again. I'm not sure exactly what to do as I haven't dealt with anything malicious, but if you're interested, I know that there's some stuff you can look into. Someone said look into the history of the house. Another person said the Hat Man is often part of disturbed sleep along with the night hag and the thing in the corner. Why have they been consistent? Consider mundane reasons before supernatural if you can. For me, it's just like, no, it may not be ghosts, it may be stress or whatever, but it's weird when like a stress thing or something like that causes people from all over the world to kind of have the same phenomenon, such as this Hat Man, you know? I mean, there's obviously something going on, whether it is there's something attached to them or whatever. And the mother-in-law thing, I explain that one to me because I don't know how to explain that. Other than that seems pretty paranormal to me, but I don't know. All right, moving along. This next story is from the user Troy It's from the subreddit Ghost Stories, and it's called Something Terrifying Happened in My Childhood Home That My Entire Family Witnessed. I've never really told this story online before because I know it sounds unbelievable, but it's something that happened to my family when I was around 6 years old, and I'm genuinely curious what people think. I grew up in the Netherlands. We moved into a fairly new, modern terraced house when I was about 5 years old. Nothing strange happened at all for around a year and a half. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, things started happening. The first thing I remember is having recurring dreams that someone was standing outside my bedroom, watching me through my bedroom door. My room was in the attic, and outside my room was a small landing with a washing machine and a family computer. Did you just miss the family computer room days? I sometimes wish that we just had a desktop in our home, no iPads or anything like that, and just had one little room just with a computer where you have to go. And like, you kind of have to figure out a schedule for everyone because everyone is sharing the same thing. And you can't make calls when your mom is on the computer or when you're on the computer, your mom's trying to call in, but you're on AOL Instant Messenger. And then she gets mad. I don't know if that's a true story or not. I'm just saying. All right, sorry. Then we started noticing that every morning the washing machine door would be open and the clothes would be scattered across the landing. That would make me so mad. My mom would also hear footsteps coming from the attic during the night, but every time she checked on me, I would be fast asleep in my bed. One night, my mom woke up and found me downstairs standing in front of the TV, staring at static in what she described as a trance. Looking back, I assume I must have been sleepwalking. After that, things escalated. I know I've mentioned it before on here, but sleepwalking scares me so much, like regardless of who is doing it. But When it is your own child sleepwalking, it is the most terrifying thing ever because, like, obviously you're not going to, like, you have to sleep as well. So you never know what's, like, gonna happen when you're asleep. And I remember we immediately, like, when my son would sleepwalk, we immediately put latch locks on the very top of the door so he couldn't reach them because I was terrified. The footsteps became much louder. My parents said they sounded like someone running up and down the stairs at night. Doors would begin opening and closing by themselves. The biggest incident happened one night when my parents were both awake in bed. They heard the footsteps again, and then their bedroom door started opening and closing. Oh, I hate that. They immediately ran upstairs, grabbed me from my attic bedroom and my little sister from her room, brought us into their bedroom, and all four of us watched the bedroom door repeatedly swing open and slam shut while the footsteps continued running up and down the stairs. I'm not victim shaming. I mean, nothing like that. But why, if your bedroom is the one that is being affected by this terrifying thing, are we bringing the little children into that room? Why don't we just all go down to the living room? Why don't we all go hang out in the bathroom together? Like, I would not be like, okay, guys, we're all scared, so we're all going to sit here on this bed and stare at the scary thing that's happening. I don't like it. My dad is a very skeptical, practical person who has never believed in ghosts or anything paranormal. But my mom says he's never forgotten that night because it terrified him too. Eventually, my mom contacted a friend who knew some people interested in the paranormal. They came to the house with what I remember as some sort of triangular device. I was only little, so I didn't know exactly what it was. They said there was strong energy, particularly in the attic where my bedroom was. They performed some kind of cleansing ritual. From that day forward, everything stopped. No more footsteps, no more doors, no more washing machine incidents, nothing. It's now around 25 years later, and none of us have ever experienced anything like that again. So, I have a few questions. Has anyone experienced something similar? Is there any logical explanation that could account for all of this, especially multiple people witnessing the same event? If you believe in the paranormal, why would the activity suddenly begin after living in the house for 18 months with nothing happening beforehand? Does anyone know what the device they used could have been? I'm genuinely open-minded. I'm not saying this proves ghosts exist, and I know memories can become distorted over time. But this is how my family remembers it, and the fact it all stopped immediately after those people visited has always left me wondering. And they said I'd love to hear both skeptical and paranormal perspectives. Okay, number one, that's terrifying. Number two, I can have a theory, but I wanted to see the comments to see if anyone else had the same kind of thought process that I did, but it's not looking like it. So my thought was that, and I, I'm just going for, the crazy thought. Okay, this isn't really logical, but when he sleptwalked and was staring at the static, I wonder, it just reminds me of the movie Poltergeist, and I wonder if it was, something like that. And it just kind of, because he said that things didn't escalate until after that night. It seems like something happened that night to start causing all of this. It's like he let something in or, something crazy like that. So, again, just my thought. But there was also a couple of comments that I wanted to read because there's people giving their own stories. So, Kelly Elise 515 said, "We were experiencing some crazy stuff in my house. We've lived here over 30 years and it's been relatively quiet. The house was built in 1901. I started being awakened by something running into my bed hard. Oh, I hate that. I hate it so much. It progressed to where I'd see shadows swirling all over my room until I started leaving a lamp on. Oh, I hate this one. Oh, I just read the next line. No. Dang it. No. Okay, this next line is absolutely terrifying. So she said, it progressed. I would see shadows swirling around my room. I started to leave the lamp on. Then it started touching me. Ugh. The next line is even worse. I thought that was it. I keep reading it. I've got to stop. Stroking my hair, face, holding both of my ankles down. Just crazy stuff. I am so stressed. Whew. I kept ignoring it. How do you ignore that? I would have set the house on fire. I would have run away. I would have been like Uncle Vernon when the owls kept bringing the letters to Harry, and I would have packed everyone up that night and drove as far away as I could. I would get out every now and then and be like, nope, this place isn't good. Get back in the car, keep going, until finally I found a little tiny shack in the middle of the ocean, and then I would get our little boat and we would go out there. I would not ignore it. That's what I'm trying to say. Oh, she's not done. I kept ignoring it until it went after my developmentally disabled son. He started bursting into my bedroom every night. Something had hit him in the back. Something wrenched his book out of his hand. Something was yanking his blankets off. I never told anyone about what I was experiencing. I just thought I was making a mountain out of a molehill. You're not. I do all the little rituals they tell you to do, but it kept coming back. Salting, smudging, praying, you name it, I did it. A couple of days go by and then it would come back. Finally, I mentioned what was going on in an SM post. Again, I don't know. Oh, maybe it's Slender Man. I don't know. No, that doesn't make sense either. I don't know what the SM is. A man offered to help. I had nothing to lose. I sent him photos of the most active areas in my house. He ended up fixing the issue, but it took several attempts to get it to stop permanently. He told me I was astral projecting and bringing these entities home with me. From where? And what kind of dreams are you having, girlfriend? I didn't believe him because I never remembered my dreams, let alone flying around the ether. Several years later, after the activity stopped, I joined an astral projection sub on Reddit and discovered that all the symptoms lined right up with AP. My whole body vibrating and exploding head syndrome are classic features of AP. I don't know what that guy did to end it once and for all, but I no longer have those symptoms. That's terrifying. You're not even safe when you dream because you could bring things back when you dream. What? I don't like it. I do not like it. So, crazy story. Honestly, the one in the comments freaked me out more than than the actual story, but both of them are terrifying. Both of them I hate. I don't like any kind of thing living in your house that's not you. Moving on. This next story is from the user Past Lifeguard 2924, and it's from the paranormal subreddit called Living in a Haunted Pub. Me and my partner currently live above and manage a pub in England, which was built in the 1700s, so it's a fairly oldish building. It's just a little old. 1700s, my dude. Very old. I think my house is old and it's only built in the 60s or 70s. I just can't. Living in the US, we just cannot appreciate, old, And I think it's so cool to know that there are just tons of buildings that have been maintained for so long, literal hundreds of years. I think that is just fascinating. I've never been to Europe or anywhere overseas, so that's a bucket list trip for me, but I just think it's so cool. Many years ago, it used to be old stables before it was built into a pub, so you can imagine it has many stories surrounding it. Around 10 years ago, we had a medium visit due to ongoing weird activity, and customers during those years also had sightings of people, commonly an older couple, sitting at the bar and other strange activities such as the sound of hooves and stools being dragged. That would be cool. Like if you own a pub and stuff and people are like, the ghost horse, he wants another drink, he's coming in. Like, I would lean into that kind of thing because it's not terrifying. Like a stool is being moved, or you see an old couple, or you hear a horse. Like, to me, that stuff is just kind of fun. When the medium visited, they said our upstairs function room had hundreds of entities passing through. What? And recalled a handful of spirits that were not so friendly. The upstairs room is about 15 feet tall with high, stable beams, and there had been stories over the years of people being hung in there when it was originally stables and whatever else. Wow. Oh, see, that kind of thing I wouldn't love. Horses, elderly couples hanging out, fine. Knowing that a bunch of people have literally been hanged in my house that's not it. There had also been a circulating story of a young girl around 10 to 12 years old, which had also been hung upstairs. I will get into that, but that spiritual activity eventually followed us into our flat over a number of years, which is right next to the function room. The medium had also mentioned that our cellar, where our beer barrels are kept, had an extremely bad entity and refused to stand in there any longer than a minute, as the spirit was causing her discomfort and wanted us all to leave immediately. See, that kind of thing, they got to go. Fast forward, I've had no sightings of an old couple myself. However, my partner has, and many customers have over the years. One day, I was doing some plants in our beer garden, and I happened to look up to the window of our function room, and I saw a man's face staring down at me. My partner, another member of staff, and a few friends were also with us that day and witnessed it as well. However, I thought a customer was upstairs when they shouldn't have been, so I told my partner and my colleague to run up there quickly to tell them they can't be up there. They both ran up as quickly as they could, but obviously once up there, they no longer saw anyone. However, the curtain by that window had been moved. Checking the cameras, there was no sign of anyone other than movement of the curtain. And they said there's no breeze and the window was not open. That's crazy. Over the recent years, members of staff that have come and gone, up until now, have always reported feeling like someone was pulling on their hair. No, in their clothes whenever they were changing a barrel in the cellar. And as stated earlier, the medium stated that there was a bad entity in that room. Ugh. Over the past 3 years, continuously, our fire alarm and burglar alarm would go off at the same time at around 3 a.m. almost every night. Oh, that's frustrating. That's terrible. And every time we checked the alarm to see where it had been triggered, the sensors were picked up either in the function room or 9 out of 10 times in the cellar. That cellar guy has got to go. Girl needs her sleep. Like, please. That's crazy. In the past, when we have gone down to check if we were genuinely being broken into, he would go into the cellar and see that our beer lines were being unplugged and disconnected, causing us to lose gallons and gallons of stock. Oh my goodness. This ghost thing is like affecting your well-being, like, and your livelihood. You can't sleep and you're losing money. That's terrible. Ugh, that's terrible. Anyone that has ever worked with beer barrels knows they're not easy to put on and take off. So that was a huge alarm in itself. Obviously, that one was creepy AF, but there wasn't a lot we could do about that at the time. However, we thought maybe our alarms had a fault, so we would have people come out to check them, and they were always told that everything was normal. In terms of what I stated earlier about the spirit of a little girl, we would often hear footsteps, little feet running up and down our flat hallway every night, also at 3 a.m. Sometimes laughter or sometimes a soft and gentle whisper. I don't like it. I want to note that we also live with 2 dogs and 2 cats, and when this would happen, the cats would raise their hackles and stare directly down the hallway with their fur sticking up. My dogs would also be staring down the hallway with a low and deep growl, so obviously they all sensed something that was there, and that's what me and my partner made it think that maybe we weren't going crazy. Of course they're not going crazy. Like, they're driving you crazy because you're sleep deprived now, but my goodness. Both things had been happening constantly over the years. However, I would say that we've had reduced activity in the past year, and also our alarms haven't been going off at 3 a.m. However, last night my partner was cashing up and heard 2 loud female coughs, which the dogs instantly turned their heads to, and a constant thumping noise in our flat again. I am also now pregnant, and since we've seen some peace recently, this is starting to scare me again, as I really don't want the feeling of any bad spirits around my unborn child. Ugh, I hate that. Even my own mother refuses to stay in our flat for long, as she gets severe headaches up here and feels uneasy, saying there is something always here. Plus, a colleague who had also stayed up in the flat with us for a few months woke up with huge scratch marks on her back when she stayed in our spare room. No animals were in there when she stayed, and the door was shut at all times, and they sleep in our bedroom. Obviously, the bad energy seems to have come back into our flat, and I'm worrying now because my nights will be sleepless again. How do I cleanse any bad spirits? Do I need a professional? Girl, after 10 years, yes. Yes, you do. I would be like, if I'd gone a week with having to wake up at 3 a.m. because of that type of thing, I would be calling someone immediately. I wouldn't even wait around, like, the skepticism out the window. Like, I'm trying everything I can just so I can sleep. And then they put edit. I also want to add that during the years when the activity was at its peak, I was accumulating loads of random bruises all over my body. And I would wake up to those every morning and feeling extremely sick. My goodness. I actually went to the hospital for this random bruising, as doctors originally thought I had a severe medical condition, and even checked me for various cancers because of how bad they were. However, to this day, they have still been unable to explain what was causing all of the random bruising. I want to note that I've also had hundreds of blood tests and around 5 to 6 different types of scans, and they've always said that this was just a mystery. Again, as I said, I'm pregnant. I really don't want to be stressing or feeling sick if it's really back. Oh my goodness. That is terrifying. I'm trying to see. This one was 3 months ago. And I just want to look at the comments to see if there's anything, like any updates or any suggestions. Someone said, since you do live in an older building, make sure you're getting it, inspections and stuff. They never know if it's like carbon monoxide or anything like that. And they said, thanks for the advice. We do have inspections done yearly, as this is technically classed as staff accommodation. And also gas detectors are checked regularly. So every normal house problem has been ruled out. I've been into the paranormal for 30 plus years. I had a ghost of a man in my home and kept seeing him on my stairway. I didn't know how to remove him until I read an article on renowned medium Echo Bodine. She explained the cleansing technique. I did what she laid out, and I've never seen the ghost again. Let me know if you want me to explain this to you. It's free. And then the OP said, I haven't really looked into cleansing since I just kind of was brushing everything off. And oh my goodness, they also said, although I did have an extremely bad demonic experience around 5 years of age, which I will never forget, is also the reason why I refuse to believe that any unusual activities happen to me now. And I'm just overthinking. Goodness, if you've already had something like that, I feel like that should do the opposite. And you'd be like, I'm not going through this again. Wow. They were like, please help me. Someone said, this is only my opinion, obviously, but if I were in your shoes, I'd start making inquiries of local churches that have sympathetic clergy. Get your foot in the door by asking for a blessing for your home and business. The fact that you're pregnant should make it obvious that you want a safe spiritual environment as well as physical environment. Anyone who makes any noises of not doing such things because it's superstitious, cross them off your list. If you live in a small town, you may have to resort to widening your search. So really, there were not any very helpful suggestions to this poor person. I hope that they do an update, and I will definitely kind of check back into that one because it's only been a few months since they wrote this post. So hopefully they'll come back and say, hey, we were able to do this and it worked and everything's been great since. That's what I'm hoping for. We'll see. All right, but we're going to move on to our next story. This is from user Green Temperature 57 and it's from the subreddit Ghost Stories again. And it's called Haunted Airbnb. Are you sensing a theme? My wife and I rented an Airbnb in Conroe, Texas for a wedding we recently attended. It was a nice home in a nice neighborhood. We really lucked out. It was well maintained, even though the furnishings and decorations were from another era. Think 50s with the 70s update. Then another recent update, likely to make it presentable as a rental. As we got comfortable, we surmised that it was likely an elderly relative who recently passed that the family inherited and decided to do short-term rentals for the house. We noticed that there were a lot of coasters on all the tables. We got the hint and were sure to use them. At one point, we even started, for fun, to express out loud something along the lines of, "Don't worry, Grandma, we're using the coasters." So true. Such a grandma thing. The first night was uneventful, and we woke up and spent most of the day at the wedding, came back late, and got ready for bed. My wife and I prefer to sleep in separate rooms, mostly because I snore, but also for the comfort of having your own schedule. I tend to go to bed earlier. I said goodnight and brought a glass of water to the bedroom. I put the cup on the nightstand and crawled under the comforter. As soon as I was tucked in, I heard the cup fall and bounce quite a bit. I thought it was odd as I didn't see any way that I could have knocked it off. I got out of bed to clean it up and immediately noticed I didn't use a coaster. Grandma is not playing around. Without even thinking, I said, "Sorry, Grandma," as I wiped up the spilled water. If that was it, there would be no story. But when I looked for the cup, it was dead center under the bed, standing straight up. Ugh! I couldn't even reach it with my hand and had to get a broom to gather it in the morning. I genuinely felt that something odd had happened. Yes. I'm like seeing the image in my head of just like something rolling under your bed and you're like, oh, okay, I've got to go grab it. And then it's just standing up perfectly. Like, oh, I hate that. I hate that. I get back in bed and drift to sleep. At some unknown hour, there was a loud, close-sounding bang and a terrifying shriek. I have never in my life shot straight up from a dead of sleep. That is exactly what I did, though. From dead to the world to sitting straight up and wide awake. I got out of bed, did a quick lap around the house, and not seeing anything out of sorts, I went back to bed. What happened to your wife? Like, what? Are we not checking on her? I'm telling this story to my wife in the morning, and she pales. She said she also heard a loud bang in the middle of the night that startled her wide awake. She did not recall a shriek, but said the bang sounded right outside the wall, and it terrified her. I agreed that is what I experienced as well. The only thing we can figure out is Grandma threw a tantrum for my lack of using a coaster. I kind of wanted to leave a short version of the story on the review, but felt better just to give it 5 stars and let future guests know what a charming house it is. I would totally put in there, like, we love this house. It was so great, but please use a coaster. Oh my goodness, that's so funny. So I guess if you're ever in, Conroe, Texas, look for the old grandma's Airbnb and bring your own coasters. All right, moving on to my next story. This one is from user OKLiving4910, and the subreddit is True Scary Stories. It's called I Work in a Haunted Mansion. The dream. Just kidding. I'm a behavioral health technician. I got a new job back in September at what's considered a luxury drug and alcohol rehab facility. The facility is a huge mansion that on the outside looks like a mix of the Banks Bel Air mansion on Fresh Prince Nice, nice. Or a mini White House. It's 3 levels, has 13 rooms that all have private bathrooms. Oh my goodness. With jacuzzi tubs. There's a gym, 3 living rooms, and a huge commercial kitchen, a ballroom/yoga studio, doctor's office, huge garden, and an elevator. That's insane. I just went to tour this house. My first week, I had 2 clients tell me it's haunted, and I just laughed it off. My schedule is 11 p.m. to 7:30 a.m., so majority of the time, all the clients are asleep, and it's just me and a nurse in this huge house, so it's quiet. My office is on the 2nd floor. The nurse's office, along with the kitchen and huge pantry, are on the 1st floor. The pantry is locked at all times, and the nurse has the key. A couple of weeks ago, the nurse came stomping up the stairs yelling at me, saying I scared her, hiding in the pantry. I'm lost because I hadn't left my office, and when I tell her that, she goes pale. And she says, "You weren't just in the pantry, and you didn't just yell knock knock? Ew, what kind of ghost is telling knock knock jokes?" I say, "No, how could I be when you have the key?" She just walked out. 10 minutes later, I hear talking, so I go down to her office, and she's down on her knees praying. At 6 a.m., the chef and the handyman clock in and ask how our night was. And I jokingly say Casper scared Nurse J in the pantry. The chef says, "Oh, that's Kay if it was in the pantry." I'm like, huh? He then goes on to say he's worked here for 15 years, and it used to be a retirement home, so lots of residents have passed away here. He named off certain residents and where their ghosts have been, saying that they've always been kind, not malicious types of hauntings. Nurse J put in her 2 weeks and no longer works here. I hear footsteps, lights flicker, and fireplaces randomly come on, but I haven't had anything actually speaking to me like Nurse J. That one is just like, see, that is the kind of haunting that, like, I appreciate. Because they're not scaring anyone. It's just a playful little ghost story. They were just they heard this really good joke from one of the patients, and they were like, you know what? I need to test this out. So then he was just like, "Hey, Nurse Shay, there you are. I'm gonna tell it." So sad. Like, what was the joke? I just want to know what the joke was. It's also so funny to me, though, because the picture in my mind of a ghost in a pantry that probably was not locked back in the day, but is now locked, and they're just kind of stuck in this pantry all the time. So then he's just sitting there like, what am I going to do? I guess I can tell someone a knock knock joke. What if he's like, knock knock, and she's like, who's there? And he's like, Kay. And she's like, Kay who? Like, what? I gotta know the joke. It's so cute, though. I see, okay, this is why we were going to have a hospital episode in the near future, because so many places like this have so many ghost stories, because unfortunately, yes, there are a lot of people that just naturally died there. Like, it is what it is. It's part of it. But with all of those deaths, sometimes bring ghost stories. So this one made me really want to do that episode, and I can't wait to do it. All right. On to our last story for the night. Are we ready? This one is from user Ambitious Tough 4902, and it's called The Girl in the Abandoned House. When I was around 10 or 12 years old, I made a friend while riding my bike around town. Her name was Bailey. She had 2 brothers, though I can't remember their names now, and they supposedly lived with their grandmother. I liked Bailey and her brothers. They were funny and nice, and the boys would let us play basketball with them in the backyard. We'd spend hours joking around and just being kids. One time, Bailey and I were teasing her brothers and yelling that they wore granny panties. It was just stupid kid stuff. There was one strange rule, though. Bailey told me to never go inside her house. I didn't really mind. I never liked going inside other people's houses anyway. One day, I rode down to Bailey's house, but she wasn't outside like she usually was. I knocked on the door. And when no one answered, I did something I wouldn't normally have done. I just opened the door and stepped inside. Why do we do this? Why are we opening doors? It's such a kid thing to do. The house was strange. Beads hung in the doorways. There were small water fountains everywhere, and the place had an odd smell. A moment later, Bailey came out. She was not happy to see me inside. She told me I wasn't supposed to do that, and she said she couldn't play that day. So, feeling awkward, I left and went home. The next day, I rode back to see Bailey again, but the house was completely different. What? It was abandoned. The windows were boarded up, weeds had grown everywhere. The yard was overgrown, and the whole place looked like it had been empty for years. There was no sign that anyone had lived there recently. I never saw Bailey or her brothers again. Years later, I looked into the history of the property to see if maybe a family had lived there during that time and then just moved away. As far as I could find, no one had. The house had been listed as abandoned back then, and it remains abandoned to this day. I've never been able to explain who Bailey and her brothers were, or exactly what happened that summer. What? Whoa. That would make such a good movie. The only comment says, "Is this a true story? If so, wow. If not, great story." And the OP says, "It is a very true story." Wow. That's crazy, but also really awesome. This kind of story is like one of those things where, like, I personally don't have a good memory, especially back on like things that happened during my childhood. And so there are some memories that I have that oftentimes I like really question if it was really just a dream that I had and not an actual thing that happened to me, because I've always had really vivid dreams. And that's another upcoming episode, by the way. I want to do a dreams one because dreams can be wild, as we have heard today. But I just like this kind of story would be the thing that I would just always, my entire life would be like, did that really happen? Or was I just dreaming that? You know, like, I don't know. That's crazy. That is so crazy. And like, so if she never went inside, like Bailey and her brothers just would have stayed there, like everything would have been okay. And also, what are her parents thinking? like I know if it was in the 90s or whatever, then she probably wasn't telling them where she was going, but who knows? Whether you believe in ghosts, lingering memories, or simply the power of our imagination, or your dreams, it's hard to ignore that some places just leave an impression, something that follows you long after you're gone. If you'd enjoyed tonight's broadcast, we really appreciate you following, leaving a review, or sharing with a friend. It means so much to us. If you're craving even more stories, you can head over to our Patreon, where you can get bonus episodes. And if you have a story that you want shared with the world, please, please, please send it in. You can send it to us through any of our social media platforms, but you can also email us at statichourpodcast@gmail.com. I am Bree, and you've been listening to The Static Hour. We're going off the air. Good night.